do you see yourself going forward at this point?
Going forward, well, we're moving say through all of this, I am ultimately or essentially a big five personalities researcher. So the five-factor model of personality is the core conceptual framework for much of the work that I'm doing. The spirituality fits into this because it addresses the question that I ask, what lies beyond the big five? Is there anything else out there? And with my work on spirituality has shown us that yes, spiritual transcendence is another dimension that's out there. And so for me, I like to think of myself as a big six researcher now, with the big five plus spirituality. Is what I'm doing. One of the areas that I'm moving into now is the area of Axis 2 personality disorders, and that there's a lot of controversy about the value and utility of the DSM approach to understanding psychopathology on this dimension. And there's a lot of problems with the DSM and how it organizes its disorders, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things I've been interested in doing is providing a new way of understanding Axis 2 pathology that comes not from a clinical approach, but from the Big Five approach. In that, knowing that the Big Five is a robust taxonomy of personality, and knowing that Axis 2 pathology represents more extreme variants of these qualities. So what I'm doing is trying to identify what the extreme variants are, and then using that information for a way of coming up with new categories for understanding Axis 2 pathology. Now, one of the dimensions that I'm adding into it, like I said, I'm a big five plus one. Well, where's the plus one in all of this? Well, part of the work that we're doing now in developing this new scale includes this dimension we call religious crisis. The spirituality really doesn't relate to psychopathology per se. But what really relates to psychopathology, as I said earlier, is this perceived distress in my relationship with God. That people who feel that God's punishing them, or that God has alienated them or isolated them, these individuals seem to develop higher levels of psychopathology than those that feel more comfortable in their relationship. So in developing these scales, where we've got a scale on religious crisis in there that's designed to see is there a personality disorder that's based on this disruption in people's sense of the transcendent. So that's where we're moving at this point here in terms of the clinical applications of how does spirituality, or in this case religious crisis, impact psychological well-being. That's our next step at this point here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate all the time.
Oh,